We're so excited to have you. We just want to thank each and every one of you for coming this way. Many of you flew in. We've got a great lineup today. So we just want to thank each and every one of you for supporting AREAA Napa Solano. Thank you so much. We got a great evening in store for us as well. So before I begin introducing the next introducer here and one of our past presidents, I'd like to start off by reading AREAA's mission statement. Okay? So with that, AREAA, ladies and gentlemen, AREAA is dedicated to promoting sustainable home ownership opportunities in Asian American communities by creating a powerful national voice for housing and real estate professionals, that's you guys, that serve this dynamic market. So thanks again for supporting our mission. We look forward to this amazing day. I'd like to go on ahead and acknowledge all of our sponsors, by the way. We've got Bazan Sellers here. Let's give them a round of applause. We've got Mako. We've got Canis. We've got Mandavi here. And some of our vendors here as far as the sponsors. We've got Built Right Flooring right over there in the corner over there. Say hello to them. We've got here Premier Financial Alliance right over there in the middle. And we've got Dream Team Lending. Right? We've got the Blind Butler. We can't see you guys, so we've got it out. We've got Riman Korean Skincare right over there on the table, right on the registration. And of course, we've got Noni ADU. They're over there. No Home ADU. Okay. So, sorry for that. Anyways, thanks again. We got a great lineup, as I said. And so what I'd like to do at this point is introduce, behind every president is a trusted advisor. And so this young lady is the founder of AREAA. Actually, we started AREAA as AREAA Solano, and we decided to expand here in AREAA in Napa. So we are now AREAA Napa Solano, so we wanted to make sure we captured the wine country, right, for you all. And so with that in mind, my trusted advisor, the founder of AREAA Napa Solano, which is now AREAA Solano, which is now AREAA Napa Solano, and our advisor here, past president of AREAA Solano. And let's all introduce, give her a warm round of applause to Kim Liu. She's done a lot behind the scenes to make this happen. So here you go.
Hi everyone, how's everyone doing?
Great!
Sorry, it's a little warmer here. I think we have over 100 people. So realtors like to register the day of. I'd like to thank my entire team for putting this all together. This is more than a wedding, what you guys see here. It's been months in the making. We have a lot of people flying in for this event, and it's just been amazing. So thank you so much for all my guests for flying in near and far. Thank you. So I'd like to welcome to the stage, they're already on the stage, Tim Burr, AREAA's National Past President in 2023.
Sure.
And Mike Rowe, I'm sorry, I don't know where you flew from, Chicago? Chicago.
Wow. Woo! I came from Atlanta.
Mike Rowe, NAR attorney. You guys have realtor friends that are not in this room, give them FOMO, tell them this is where they need to be. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a presentation about what's going on with the whole NAR Commission Settlement. All right.
Hey guys, I'm actually not wearing my AREAA hat today because I am actually one of your 13 liaisons back to the National Association of Realtors. I'm your liaison for community engagement. So I'm basically, I get to work with all the multiculturals, but I remember when Northern Solano when this chapter was being formed, because Kim was very persistent. And I promised her when she was president that I would do everything to support her, and she cashed in her check.
For sure.
I usually don't get to go talk about the lawsuit, and so she asked me to talk about the lawsuits and stuff like that. I said, hey, look, I'll do better, and I'll bring you an attorney from NAR on this. So since we have someone who's more versed on the lawsuit itself, in California, you guys are very different. get to speak more on major investor and talking about the importance of realtors. Just for our curiosity, how many people are realtors in the room? More than half.
Never too busy. That's his slogan. So he's never too busy for your referrals, and I refer all of my clients to him up in the San Jose area because he's amazing. And I'm so excited to ask him all the hard questions today as a seller.
Don't be too hard.
Okay, I'll try not to be too hard. But you guys know, like, you know, when you're going to your listing appointments lately, sellers are asking tough questions, and I want to hear what Jordan's answers are. So I have a list of questions here. So Jordan, first of all, nice to meet you today. By the way, what do you think of my house?
Yeah, your house is beautiful. We talked about all the nice things.
It's like the nicest house you've ever seen, right?
Well, yeah, every seller thinks that.
Yeah, well, mine's really is.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of positive things going for it. It would be a fantastic asset to put on the market, and we'd love to go find the perfect buyer for your perfect house.
Okay, we'll see. First of all, though, I've heard in like the news that like sellers don't have to pay for agents anymore. They don't have to pay for buyers agents anymore, and they could save so much money. And I heard like the prices are going to come down. Is that true?
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of headlines circling around the media about a settlement with the National Association of Realtors, and you see these headlines that realtors don't have to get paid anymore. I mean, what is your general understanding of those headlines, or have you dug into it a little bit deeper beyond what the headlines are saying? What is your understanding of such?
I mean, not really. I haven't dug too much into it, but all my friends are telling me like I'm gonna save so much money when I sell now because I don't have to pay the buyer's agent. So I'm like, that's awesome. I might as well wait till after August 17th, and it's gonna be cheaper to sell.
Got it. Yeah. It's a very, very interesting perspective that your friends and you and the majority of consumers in the marketplace have based off just reading those headlines and not having a full understanding of what the settlement actually entails. There's a couple big changes that are going to be taking place in our industry as far as the fact that right now when you go and list your house, you have the option to offer out cooperative broker compensation, right? Which would be the compensation paid to the buyer's agent that brings you a buyer at an adequate price for your home, right? That is currently displayed on the MLS, right? So if I'm working with a buyer, I can go look on the MLS and see that I'm going to be paid X on this transaction if I represent the buyer. One of the big changes is that that's not going to be a thing anymore. Commissions are not going to be publicly displayed in regard to, if any, what is being offered to an agent who does bring a buyer at an acceptable price on your home. Secondly, one of the largest changes is the last 10 years that I've been in this industry, I've always worked with my buyers on a handshake agreement, right? If you were to come to me and say, hey, Jordan, I want to work with you to buy a house, we have that discussion. We say, great, Jamie, we're gonna go look at homes and we're gonna find you the perfect property. Now what's going to take place is that any buyer touring a house with an agent has to have a written agreement in place outlining what their fees for that service are. You as the seller have always had the option to pay a buyer's agent or not pay a buyer's agent. Commissions have always been negotiable, so nothing is changing in regards to commissions being negotiable. Nothing is changing in regards to whether you decide that you want to or do not want to pay a buyer's agent who brings a buyer to your house. But I think that it's important for you as the seller to understand what the benefits of potentially paying a buyer's agent are and what the consequences could potentially be if you decide not to pay a buyer's agent.
I see. Well, I kind of feel like I shouldn't have to pay for the buyer's agent because obviously you're going to be representing me as the seller, and the buyer's agent is going to be negotiating against me, trying to bring our price down or get the best deal for the buyer. So it kind of feels like, why should I pay for the buyer's agent when they're like negotiating against me? They're like, they're not on my side.
So have you
Right?
have you ever by chance thought of it from this perspective that the buyer pays both sides of the commissions already?
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I'm gonna get less money.
So let's think about it this way, right? If if my commission and the buyer's agent's commission are coming out of the proceeds from the sale, and there are no proceeds without the buyer, theoretically, aren't both commissions being paid by the buyer in that scenario?
True. So what's the whole point of this then?
So, I also want to touch on that in regards to that point real quick so that you can understand what potentially paying a buyer's agent could do for your estimated net sheet and your proceeds, right? When I look at it on a round calculation of $1 million sales price, and let's say hypothetically we're paying a buyer's agent 2.5%, right? That's $25,000 that we're paying said buyer's agent. If we tell the buyer that they need to pay their agent that $25,000 or whatever they've agreed to in their buyer broker agreement, that money is theoretically coming out of the funds that they have for their down payment and what they're able to offer you for your house, right? So if we circle back to that $1 million price point and the buyer, let's say, is putting 20% down, which would be $200,000, and you subtract, say, $25,000 from that, they're left with $175,000, right, for their down payment, which then allows them to potentially make an offer of $875,000 on your house instead of $1 million on your house. So theoretically, by not entertaining the idea of paying a buyer's agent, you could have potentially just cost yourself $125,000 in net proceeds in comparison to just paying that $25,000. But I will say, with the climate changing, we do not need to make a unilateral offer of compensation right from the beginning, right? In previous days, we would sign a listing agreement, we would say total commission is X. X is going to go to me for my fees, and we're going to offer out X to the buyer's agent, right? What I think we can do now is you and I can have the conversation and we can negotiate what my fee is, as commissions have always been negotiable. And in turn, all we have to decide right now is if we're willing to pay a buyer's agent potentially or offer them funds towards their buyer broker agreement if they bring in a fantastic offer that is acceptable to you, because at the end of the day, what's most important is the money that you net from the sale of your home. Right? Am I correct? You want to net the most amount of money possible.
Yeah.
Right? So we can go and say, yes, we're potentially willing to do that, and that'll be part of the terms that we negotiate, right? One agent might come and say, hey, I'm requesting that I get paid 1% on this transaction. One agent might come and say, hey, I'm requesting that I get paid 3% on this transaction. Or maybe we end up dealing with a buyer that is completely comfortable paying their agent. So that's probably the biggest change to you as a seller right now, that doesn't need to be a set amount at this exact moment. But I do want it to be an expectation of yours that it is something that could come into conversations down the road, so that you're not surprised when we get offers on your house and the other agent is asking to be compensated for the offer that they brought you on your beautiful home.
That makes sense. When you explain it like that, it makes more sense, and I think that's fair. So how much do you charge for commission for your listing side?
So commissions have always been negotiable. I think that you've seen fantastic value in everything that I provide. We just went over my marketing plan, everything that I'm going to do to make sure that you net the most amount of money from the sale of your home. So my commission is 3.5% to represent you as the seller throughout the transaction.
Wow, 3.5% is really high, right? I think like most agents charge like 2.5%.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, we're talking for you, or the majority of people, their homes and their properties are their biggest assets, correct? Would that be true of your
Definitely,
profile as well?
sure.
Yeah, so let's just say, as we previously discussed, your home is worth about $1 million, right? We're talking about a minimal $10,000 difference in that 1% that you're comparing to others that you may have already talked to. I think that everything we just discussed and the value that I bring to the table and what I'm going to negotiate on your behalf is going to outweigh that $10,000 tremendously.
I see. So,
but I will also tell you, if you have a proposition of something that you're comfortable with, like we can have a conversation about that. Commission is not going to be the reason that we don't work together. So I think of my clients and myself as a team. The goal is the same, right? To make sure you net the most amount of money possible. for you to see value in the services that I'm providing as we get you from step A to step Z, and make sure that you're comfortable with everything taking place throughout the process.
Got it. Okay. Well, you know, my house is like quite expensive, so you're gonna be getting, I don't know, I can't even calculate right now. I think like $100,000 or something for this commission. Like, isn't that enough? Like, if the buyer comes and they don't have an agent, can you just represent them for free? Because like, I don't, you know, you're already getting so much. Like, it's like.
So,
right? I mean.
so I will say that it is absolute. When I sign a listing agreement with you, I have a fiduciary duty to you as the seller to get you the best possible price and best possible terms for the sale of your property, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely not my goal to go and represent a buyer on my listing as well, because when I'm representing a buyer as well, I have a fiduciary duty to them throughout the transaction, which those two things go in parallel, right? They don't go in conjunction with each other, typically.
Yeah.
With that being said, there are rare instances that it does happen, right? If, like we discussed, your home is worth roughly $1 million. If a buyer was to walk into my open house and say, hey, I want to make an all-cash offer on this listing for $1.2 million and I don't have an agent, like, I'm not going to tell those people to go kick rocks, Jamie. We're going to write that offer up because it's in your best possible interest, right? And we can talk about what the compensation will be in that scenario. Again, there would be a buyer-broker's agreement submitted with the offer for compensation. But you have to realize, if I am representing a buyer on that transaction, it has to, one, be in your best interest as well, but two, I'm taking on twice the liability associated with that transaction. I'm doing twice the amount of work managing both parties in between. And to be honest, situations where both the buyer and the seller are represented by the same agent, that's the number one reason you get into lawsuits in the industry. So we have to be able to cover not only your liability, but my liability in the transaction as well. So to assume that I would do that for free is not reasonable.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. That's fair. I like it. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, this all sounds pretty good, I guess.
Sign here.
Okay, so I think like you sound like you're really well experienced and qualified, and I'm leaning towards choosing you, but your commission is 3.5%. Some of the other agents I've been talking to are 2.5%, so that's $10,000 extra dollars. How confident are you that you can net me $10,000 more than the other agents?
I'm 1,000% confident, but if you're not 1,000% confident as well, let's find somewhere to meet in the middle. And something that I've done with a lot of my sellers, which they really like, is a performance-based structure, right? Where, okay, let me meet you in the middle there between that 2.5 and that 3.5. We'll meet at 3 as a base commission, and then if I get you, well, I said the house is worth probably $1 million. If I get you $1,025,000, how about I get a 0.5% bonus because you've won. I just did a fantastic job. I understand that it's a lot of money when you look at it at the beginning of the process, but when there's a fantastic result generated with such, and you understand what my worth is and what I brought to the transaction, then that's where I'm sure that you can better comprehend what I'm being paid.
Okay, I like that a lot. That sounds super fair, and obviously if you give me a higher price, I think you should be rewarded for that as well.
There you go. You just saw an example of commissions being negotiable, as they always have been.
I love it. All right, okay. Let me talk to my husband, and then I'll get back to you.
Oh, you're married.
I have to talk to my husband. Hopefully he'll agree, and then have a couple more interviews with other agents. But
no, fantastic. I encourage you to meet with other agents. My most sophisticated sellers meet with multiple agents, and then they come back and decide that I am the best choice to work with. So I expect that you'll do that as well.
Awesome. Okay, I feel good about this. Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks, Jordan. That was amazing. Wait, hold on. Any Q&A really quick before we let Jordan go? That was amazing, right?
Great job.
Any questions? Yeah.
the elephant in the room is the seller's going to say, what's the point of all this? What is going on? What is the point of all, okay, not so general. Who initially started the lawsuit for antitrust? I know it wasn't homeowners.
It was sellers, of course.
No, it wasn't sellers. Wasn't
No,
it
it
real
was.
estate agents that did not belong to multiple listing services and they felt they
No,
could-
it was
No,
it
it
was
was
sellers in Missouri. Yeah.
It was home
There
sellers.
was a couple of sellers that started
Class
the class
action.
action. So it's just sellers, not, like I said, why should I pay for someone who's negotiating against me, right?
But honestly,
and
we-
also, like, it's a lack, I think, personally for me, I'll let you answer after. I think it's like a lack of transparency in that, like, the buyers often don't know how much their agent is getting paid, that they could negotiate a concession or a rebate if they wanted to. So I think for me, it's like all parties in the transaction should know how much each person is getting paid and have the chance to have a discussion about it if necessary.
I was just gonna say, I mean, realistically, it's probably our fault that we
It's our
ended up
fault,
in this
yes.
scenario, right?
Not
Where-
me and Jordan's
Yeah,
fault.
not, thank you
Maybe
for that
some of you guys,
clarification.
I don't know. But like,
but-
I know you've all encountered those terrible agents. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. I just went on a listing appointment yesterday, and the seller asked me how much is your commission. I told him my half is this. I explained the whole thing about the lawsuit, and they said the last agent I interviewed said 6 to 7% non-negotiable. And that is exactly why we're in a lawsuit. It's not non-negotiable. It's always negotiable.
Well,
It depends on.
It may be non-negotiable with him, but it's not an industry standard. So my seller was like, that agent led me to believe that all agents charge that amount non-negotiable.
Yeah,
Which I was like, that's exactly the
And,
reason.
and I think just to touch on the point real quick, like before these settlements came out, like, and everybody lost their shit and started freaking out about such, like, if we were in this room before those settlements took place and I asked you guys, like, how many of you want our profession to become more professional, right? And the standards to be higher associated with our service? I would venture to say that hopefully at least 90% of you would raise your hands in the room, right? That's exactly what these settlements and these practices have came to be, is they've added an additional professional standard to our industry that we all operate on, right? From a buyer perspective, you're gonna end up working with more committed buyers, not people running you around and wasting your time. And there is a lot of opportunity associated with this. And I mean, one thing Herman said earlier was that, like, he would not want to be a new agent right now because they don't have value, but I would say there's incredible opportunity for everyone who is a brand new agent right now, because you don't know any different, right? This is what you walk into, so you don't have to deal with all the changes. This is just common practice to you at this point at the beginning of your career. So there's incredible opportunity for every one of you in this room. It's just a matter of making sure that everyone on both sides of the transaction, whether you're representing the buyer or seller, truly does understand the value that you are bringing to the transaction, and it's your job to convey that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so next up, instead of being the seller, I'm going to be a buyer. So we have Melissa Sophia from San Diego, our past San Diego chapter president. She is the founder and owner of the Avenue Collective in San Diego. So we're going to pretend like, I don't know, we just met. I guess I'm like a Zillow lead or something, like online lead.
Oh, can you be a better lead than that?
Yeah, I'm an online lead. I'm not a referral. I don't know her at all. Okay. And this is like, she asked me for a buyer, I asked her for a buyer consultation. I asked her to show me a house, and she said she can't show it to me yet because we should have a little talk and a consultation first.
And this is true. I always schedule a buyer consultation first before I agree to show a property. I want to deliver my value right away.
So nice to meet you, Melissa.
Hi, nice to meet you, Jamie.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in that property that I contacted you about. I'd love to schedule a showing. Can we do that ASAP?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of the secret info from this agent. I'm going to leverage my strong relationships within the industry so I can get you exactly all the info that other people can't find online. First, I wanted to chat with you so that we can learn about each other. I have a really high level of service, and so because of that, my client list is limited. I want to make sure that we're a good fit and I can fit you into my calendar.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that you might be too good for me, but that's fine.
Well, so here's the thing. Jamie, is when you have a really great agent, there are so many things that need to be done for you in your service. It's not only to make sure that you can get an offer accepted on this one home. It's making sure this is the best choice for you, that you have the best lender working for you, that this is the right neighborhood for you, and that all of the questions that you have around the buyer process are answered before we're starting to negotiate, especially when we're in a multiple offer situation. I want you to know exactly what you're signing before we get into that process.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So I've been kind of hearing some news lately. There's like commission lawsuit or something, and I heard that sellers aren't gonna pay for the buyer's agent commission anymore. Is that true?
It's actually really exciting. Our industry is evolving, and for those of us who are really driven and who are really experienced, we're excited to see how our industry is going to improve because of all of these transparency changes and regulation changes. So here's the thing, sellers are able to continue to offer offers of compensation. There are going to be times where sellers may not offer a commission upfront to a buyer's agent. There are always things that a good agent can do, and it's my job to know exactly what to do in every single situation.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been saving for the last 15 years for my down payment. I don't even want to tell you what I've been doing to try to save, but it's been brutal, okay? I felt like I could never buy a house, and I finally saved enough to do 3.5% down for an FHA loan, and I'm so excited to finally get approved, but I can't afford to pay commission. What do I do?
I know it feels scary. I absolutely understand your concern. Already coming up with a down payment is a big financial commitment. And I want to make sure that you understand I have the ability, with my strong negotiating skills, with the leverage that I have in the industry and my special relationships to find off-market opportunities that have less competition on them. I'm going to put all of those things to work for you so that we can make sure that you are getting the best deal on the home. My goal is to not have you pay for commissions. My goal is to speak to the seller, negotiate the best deal, and have the sellers pay concessions towards your closing costs that cover all of your closing costs, including my commission.
I see. That sounds good. But what if I find a house that I really like and it's multiple offers and a bunch of buyers are making offers, and then obviously my offer has to have that compensation for you, but other buyers don't have that in their offer and they don't have compensation, and I lose out on the house? Wouldn't it be better for me to just go with the listing agent then?
Ooh, well, I don't know if you know about this, but sellers actually the seller's agent actually has a fiduciary duty, and they're signing the contract with the seller before they even meet you. So they are contractually obligated to looking out for the seller's best interest. You wouldn't want to have someone looking out for the seller's best interest also looking out for yours, would you?
Yeah, but I guess, what if that's the only way to get the house? What if the other offers are not asking for commission, but I have to because I can't afford to pay you?
So in my experience, there are so many things that go into a great offer from a buyer, so much more than just the price. And every single day, I see agents accept offers on my list, on my buyers' offers that are not the highest price. Mm-hmm. And the things that sellers are really looking for is a buyer that can close, an agent that they can work across the table with, that they can depend on, and someone who really knows how to guide their clients to success. Especially these sellers who have fallen out of escrow multiple times in a market like this. I know that when I talk to another agent and they get the sense that I'm able to advise my clients, that we can get our offer accepted even if it's not the highest price. Wouldn't you love to have somebody on your team who has that kind of leverage in the market?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. That sounds good. I'm curious, would you be willing to represent me on just this property, or what is, first of all, what's your commission rate, and how long of a contract do I have to sign with you?
Well, thank you for asking. Commissions are always negotiable. Of course, I'd be happy to work for you on this one home. But wouldn't it be better for you if we signed a contract that would allow me to make sure that you're getting the best deal for the best home available to you? I wouldn't want you to be contracted to me just to make sure you close on this home. I want to make sure that you close on the right home for you, and it might not be this property. So why don't we get together? I can show you through my actions and my support and my guidance how I earn your trust, and then we can come up with a contract that works for you so that a period of time might better serve you. That way I can make sure that you're getting the best deal on your loan. I can make sure that you're finding the right neighborhood and the right home for you. It might not be that one.
I'm pretty sure it's this one, but. So, just curious, I know you like have a big team and you're probably really busy. I see you have a lot of listings. Like, am I actually gonna work with you, or is it you're just gonna like talk to me, sign, and then just
I get
to
this
a
one
brand new agent?
all the time. I get this one every day. So I'm very fortunate to have built a very strong, incredible team around me. And I want to assure you that I work with every single client on every transaction. So I will be bringing another agent onto me just to be a second set of eyes. They'll be there to ensure that there's never a text message missed, never a home that goes unseen by you, and that no emails are ever slipped. But I will let you know that I'm going to be negotiating with the agents. I'm going to read every single text message, and every single time it's discussion on pricing or negotiations, I will be the one doing that for you. We'll be together every single step of the way.
Okay, I guess that's fair. Yeah, definitely. So, like in the situation where, you know, let's say, like I still think this house is the one for me, so hopefully you can get it for me. But I can't pay your commission, so hopefully you can convince the seller to pay your commission. But let's say the seller says no, they're not paying commission because it's really competitive, which I think it's going to be, and obviously I can't afford to pay. I only have that 3.5%. Like, is there like a loan option, or like, is there any other options?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I do is I join groups and mastermind with some of the top producers in the nation, work with the best affiliates so that we can come up with really creative solutions. Something that I have actually done in my business is I work with a lender who has created incredibly creative solutions that will help you roll all of these closing costs into your transaction. He actually also helps any pre-approved buyer turn their offer into cash. So this is a creative solution, and there are so many more. We would have to look at your unique situation. So why don't we sit down, let's get together, we can lay out everything and show you all of the different options that are available.
Okay, I like that. That sounds good.
That's actually a real solution that
Yeah.
I put into place, because for the people who are not able to come up with whatever, if the seller
Yeah.
just won't deal with it, I did create a solution with my lender who buys the home cash from the seller, and then my buyers are able to roll it into their
that's a good
loans on the
solution.
second leg.
I like that. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about this, but I have one last question. Is like, I just met you. I'm not sure if I'm like comfortable signing like a long-term agreement. Can we like get to know each other before getting married right away? Like, you know?
I love a good dating period. So yeah, absolutely. And I think that's fair. I know that once you see how I work, I know that once you see the solutions that I have in place, and how powerful I am at negotiating, we'll be able to set a period of time for you to get to know our process and see that we are the best fit together. So let's go ahead and sit down and do 30 days with the opportunity to work together in the future.
Okay. I think that sounds fair.
All I need is 30 days to get this closed.
I have to check with my dad though. He's gonna want to talk to you.
I love working with parents.
Okay.
Your parents will become my clients. I just have to warn you. I always end up being the parents' favorite more than my friend.
Okay. Good. All right. So what do you guys think? I think we're running behind, but I'll take one quick question. If anybody has a question? Anyone? Yes?
Earlier you asked how long the contract's gonna be.
Yeah.
So, truly, I'm going to try to achieve the longest contract possible so that I can.
What are you gonna ask for?
really, for what I'm doing really in my market, all I really need is 30 days with that buyer. All I need is one buyer presentation, one offer
What
on
if
one house.
there's no inventory for them?
I make inventory.
You'll find
for my
it.
clients. So no, 100%. One of the things that I do is I have a list of over 150 off-market properties. Just alone, that off-market list for my clients is they don't want to go to another buyer's agent because they can see properties that other people aren't able to show them.
What about clear cooperation?
So I mean, those aren't advertised, though.
Okay.
But they're
Okay.
they're not marketed.
You just have to know more people. If you don't know as many people as Melissa, that's too bad for you.
Well, that's why we get involved with organizations like this, right? So when we are at these events, we're getting to know people and we're seeing what their unique values that they have, they can bring to our own business. You know, when you're here, don't just talk to your friends, like talk to everyone, get to know who they are, get to know their markets, get their number, you know, learn what makes them unique, because it's building the real relationships within the rooms like this that truly set your business apart from others. It's 24 years of that I've been doing. That's why I have a list of off-market properties.
But you're only 5.
I know.
CAR says no more than 90 days initially.
90 days max, yeah.
I know it's different in other states. but
Truly,
90 days, yeah.
here's the thing. All I need is the opportunity to prove my unique value proposition, right? And now unique value proposition is something that everybody's talking about. This has been something that I've been teaching my agents for a very long time. Whether you're an experienced agent or whether you're a brand new agent, you have something to bring to the table. This is what we were talking about before.
Yes.
Our newer agents, they don't
They have time.
They have time, they have
Right?
hunger. Well, do they have kids? They understand the school system. Are they a native to that city? They know every single street of that community. Are they really deeply involved in, you know, other organizations? They have the ability to bring something to the table, even if it's humor, and that's important to a buyer. Even if it's just trust and kindness. If, you know, Jocelyn, she feels like a warm hug. All of her clients need that. You know, my clients, they tend to be people who want it straight, want to get it done, really want to, you know,
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different, and you all have value to bring to the table. You just have to find that and shine your light, and then the people that are right for you will come to you.
All right, so speaking of CAR, actually, we have a representative from CAR coming up next. Yes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but yesterday CAR released 64 new forms. So a lot of new forms, a lot of changes. It's not exciting, it's not fun, but we all have to learn it. So we have our representative from CAR coming up next to tell us all about it. Thank you all so much, and thank you so much, Melissa. That was amazing.
David Carr, come on up. Let us know what we're getting into.
Oh, yeah. Well, if somebody could help me with this.
Josh, can we get a little technical help there for Mr. David, please? That was awesome. You guys, that
Congratulations. 2 years ago, I was at your golf outing, which was wonderful. They're wonderful chapters, so if you haven't joined already, please consider doing so. So thank you. So this is a special panel because it's our top producer panel. These are leaders in real estate that are doing a fantastic job and killing it. And you're really wanting to listen to what they have to say because we are in a new environment and we want you to make the best of the new environment we're going into so you can succeed. So I'm going to hand the mic over to these people. If you can give a 1-minute kind of elevator speech on who you are, that would be great.
Hi everybody, my name is Cindy Huynh. I'm from Go ahead.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. My apologies, ladies first.
Well, he said Cindy, you go first.
You don't know if Charles is a lady.
Well, my name is Cindy Huynh. I'm from Houston, AREAA Houston Chapter. I'm the real estate broker representing associate with White House Global Properties, and I have my team partner here, King. It is my honor to be here to discuss about the topics that's incredibly relevant in our real estate industry, and whether we are the experienced or agents or we're new agents, I believe that after today, everyone's gonna get something that we can learn and apply to the new real estate landscape. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Miss Herman's in the house. How y'all doing? From Bay Area, San Francisco, born and raised, went to Berkeley, been selling real estate since almost 2000 when I graduated from Berkeley. So it's been a minute, quarter of a century almost. All the youngsters call me Auntie Hermie now. It's fine, that's fine. Yeah, so I'm here to honestly learn. I know we're up here supposed to be positioned as experts, but I'm learning myself, and that was very informative what we just saw. So thank you, David, and everybody. So I'm gonna take notes. All you.
Wow, hard to follow that one. My name's Tom Rapsarda. I'm a realtor and owner of Rapsarda Real Estate in Solano County. I'm also a core coach, and I've learned so much here at this seminar. I think the big things that we're going to be moving forward and taking away is when we're doing a listing agreements, how to explain it. But I think the bigger thing is when we do the buyer's presentation, what are we going to be doing, how are we going to explain it. So can't wait to hear from all these great professionals here and even yourself. So can't wait to learn today, and thanks for having me.
Hello everybody, Lex Orozco with Real Brokerage, born and raised in San Jose, working in the Bay Area. Been doing it for 12 years, $500 million in sales, one of the biggest mail marketers in the country. Really excited to be here today, help out in any way we can to kind of show what we got going on. We're going on a ton of listing appointments these days and really hearing firsthand, what sellers are thinking about what's going on and, the changes that are, coming to the industry right now. So, gonna hear some great insight today. I'm really excited to hear what everyone else has to say as well.
Hello everybody, Dan King, immediate past president for AREAA Houston Chapter, broker here, in Houston, Texas. I'm just here to gather information and hopefully share as much insight I can with what's going on and specifically maybe things that are going on in Texas as well. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Charles Swinberg, EXP Commercial, top 10 in first quarter of this year nationwide, and hopefully I'll add some perspectives from the commercial side of how we deal with commissions, which is different. Anyway, thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have Charles here, because things are a little bit different on commercials, and anyone that are thinking about going into commercial, you want to hear what he has to say. We have 3 questions here, but I think I'm going to cut it down to 2 because we're trying to get back on track. And I'll let Cindy go first again. So if you can answer this either from a buyer or seller perspective, depending on who you work with most, what are the most common questions or misconceptions that you've had from your sellers or buyers asking you regarding a lawsuit?
Well, I don't see anything changing my business yet. However, I have a couple of sellers and buyers. This on a different perspective from the seller side, they concerned. They just obviously that they don't understand exactly how the settlement is going to be. They just ask the agent, effectively by August the 18th, the 17th, that I don't have to pay the buyer agent. That's correct. And it's up to us as a professional real estate. We have to guide the clients. We have to guide them how's the settlement gonna change, gonna impact to the transactions and what they're gonna expect. But from the buyer side, honestly, I just closed 2 deals with the buyers because of the settlement that they getting nervous and they say, hey, Cindy, by August 17th, that I see that I have to pay you to show me the house and have to pay you to purchase the house. So might as well I just buy it now. So obviously they're rushing themselves to get the transaction done because it's getting more complicated for them. So the question for them is how much does it cost and how much the closing costs I had to bring in the table. And it's all confusion. It's all a lot of misunderstanding. Information out there, and yeah. However, there is nothing much change in my business yet.
I'm so confused. I'm confusion. Listen, like I thank the Lord in all her mighty wisdom that I have not been affected by this yet, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, because right now, maybe just because of the function of being in the Bay Area where people are a little more affluent and educated, like, no, I haven't really been forced. The issue has not come up, honestly. I mean, they'll ask about it during a listing presentation, but it's kind of esoteric and academic. No one's really forced the issue. But I'm more worried for myself. I've never done a buyer-broker agreement. Never. So I'm scared. I'm quivering in the middle of the night. Someone's gonna pluck me up from it. You know, I don't know how to even have the conversation, honestly. I mean, for me, all of my business at this point, after 23 years, is like referral based. So there's always just been a natural assumption that they're gonna use me because we're in the same friend group and yada yada yada. But I'm realizing that I don't know what I would say if I had to, like, you know, sign this. Because in the past, I would always say, you know, part of the sell of working with me sometimes is because a lot of clients would come to me and say, oh, we met this agent at the open house and she was so high pressure. I said, what do you mean? They were asking us to sign a broker binder agreement. I'm like, I just like a blind date. I don't even want me to be married to you. That's how buyers feel. And I would feel that way too, right? And so I don't know how to navigate this particular landscape on the buy side, but I'll take notes from everybody else who's smarter than me. On the listing side, I haven't really asked about it. I think, no, one of my clients, who's a very, very good friend of mine, who I went to work with, and I've sold multiple homes with, he and his husband asked me about not paying. This is like around March or April when it was kind of all in media, about not paying a commission. And I did my bestest to, you know, explain to them how there's pros and cons and whatnot. Ultimately, no one in the city really has, San Francisco, has really done that. Because who wants to be the first person to not pay something? You'll be blackballed. Your listing will be blackballed, number one, okay? And number two, you'll be the agent who's known as the, you know, and again, is that legal? Yes, perfectly legal, but I mean, there's things of NAR and everything's not talked about. It's the cultural on the grounds, like, protocol that people are worried about. So, I mean, to be continued.
So we're in the sales industry, and so when we're speaking with our clients, start with the listing side, we're gonna have to sell them and let them know, hey, there is going to be potentially a commission. So I think what I'm doing, I'm preparing kind of a sheet. Let's have a little examples. Hey, here's the commission, here's kind of the breakdown, and kind of just laying it all out. We need to be able to sell our clients that, hey, you're still paying a commission. Because what my fear is, a lot of newer agents or people just don't know how to do it. What they're going to do is not know how to explain it. They're going to be like, oh, you just have to pay 2.5% commission. And all of a sudden you go to write an offer, and the agent's like, oh my God. Or to me, the seller's like, I don't want to pay that. And then all of a sudden, what are we going to do an issue? I don't mind accepting the contract, however, I'm not going to pay the agent. And all of a sudden, I think that's going to happen. That's going to be a bit of confusion. And then on the flip side, when we're working with buyers, so I think we're also going to have a presentation, you're going to have a buyer's presentation, your value add, and laying everything out. You're going to have to lay out different types of ways that can be paid. Not most, but some buyers may not want to pay the commission. So, okay, now what are we going to do on that? And I think you have to just grind it and kind of let them know, hey, I'm helping you out, but I do have to be paid. I don't want you to pay that commission, but how am I going to set this up? So you have to allow me to be able to go out and actually negotiate and earn my commission. And so a deal may not happen just because we can't reach an agreement, but you have to allow me to go out and fight for my own commission. So I think there's going to be lots of going back and forth and a lot of trying this out, but I think that's going to be really where it's all going to come down to. Yeah.
My fear, based on that example, is like, what if you lose, there's two competing offers, and you lose the offer, and the feedback is, well, they picked that because of, you know, the commission, lower commission or zero commission. So, lawsuit. See you in court, Judge Judy.
When we're getting a call to the agents, hey, do you have any offers on the table? They say yes. I think instead of what's the other offer you have on the table, what's your net amount that you're actually making? Mm-hmm. So if we actually find out the net, then all of a sudden it doesn't matter if it's the same price, 500, 500, one may be 12,000, 15,000 more. So all of a sudden we're gonna have to, hey buyer, this is where they're at. We're gonna have to increase it $15,000, $20,000 and make the deal happen. So I think that's gonna be the change on that. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's been 50-50 in terms of, speaking with sellers. I don't work with many buyers, but in terms of speaking with sellers, it's been about 50-50 in terms of, are they asking questions about it? Do they feel that there's going to be changes? I do believe there's big changes coming. I think that a lot of things are going to be different going forward. We just don't know how many is right. So all I can explain to sellers these days is what I know and the information I'm getting from leadership, right? For me, I'm actually doing something a little bit different. I'm trying something new. I want to get ahead of August 17th. I want to have everything kind of worked out and all the kinks worked out by the time I get there. So all my sellers are definitely paying. These days I'm putting 0% commission, and then I'm putting in the note section for agents that just with your offer you're going to submit your commission request, because I want to see how people are taking to it. I want to see where the pitfalls are going to be with how things are happening. I haven't had any pushback on anything. Agents call me and they ask me, are they paying commission? Yeah, submit whatever you like. On 2 of the last 3, I was able to pay 2.5%, 3% commission. It all depends on, like what you said, what the net is. If you get me a great offer, I'm gonna get you paid. So that's really what I've been, looking at doing and trying to figure out how this is gonna work and, how the next couple of months are gonna play out, because nobody knows. But I wanna be ahead of it and kind of have my own ideas and kind of take things in the right direction.
What was the question, Kurt? How is it affecting?
Yes, the biggest misconceptions that your sellers.
So as of right now, for the selling side, I try to stay away from the residential stuff right now. I rather let my partner over there, Cindy, handle all that stuff. However, I work with a lot more commercial, retail, investment sales, landlord, tenant rep, and I've mistakenly wrote a deal in my past on retail sales, and I didn't get paid on it. And this was like a $4 million deal at that time, right? And then we submitted it all for LOI and everything, the contract done, and then the seller agent came back and said, hey, we're not paying you commission. And this is the beginning of my commercial career. I'm like, why? And it's like, because you didn't ask for it. So it's normal kind of commercial. I'm pretty sure Charles will talk more about it in a little bit, but it's normal. So what that taught me is, you gotta go ask for it. Anything in life, you gotta go ask for it. If you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it. And even if you ask for it, and they don't give it to you, you keep on asking for it. So what I'm telling the residential people right now, you gotta be persistent, right? Anything you want in life, you ask for it. So what I'm telling my sellers right now is like, hey, if you really don't want to pay, you may not get a lot of exposure. Maybe the buyer's agent not going to come and see you, but they're going to ask for it, and it's up to you. You're going to reply back and then go back and forth, right? So at the end of the day, ask for it, negotiate then, because I learned a valuable lesson that first commercial deal, I didn't ask for it, but now I ask for everything. So.
Yeah, that's a tough lesson to learn, and the key is you got to back up in writing everything. In commercial real estate, it's a little different in residential, right, where we're discussing commission and amounts and confirmation of commission every step of the way, whether it's an inquiry. When we inquire about properties, we'll go, all right, is it available? Is there anything out for signature? Is there an LOI? Is there a purchase agreement? Number 2, how do I tour it? Number 3, what's the broker comp? Tell me now, are you offering it? Because most commercial deals, the listing agreements don't particularly specify if you have to give an outgoing commission out to a broker. They give it to you, it's up to you if you want to decide to distribute it. And there's no main form or common form that's used. Every brokerage has their own, listing agreement that they like, that they crafted in years that works for them. And most of the time, there's no provision in there that requires you to put out compensation. You could put out a lot of it, you could put all of it, you could put none of it. And in most cases, what happened to Dan could happen, but in most cases, it is somewhat, I hate to use the word assumed, that there is going to be compensation. They're expecting you to ask for it. Now, they took a listing, you're not expecting to take all of it. So every step of the way in our deals, we always ask, confirm. We even send a separate comp letter after or with our offer saying, hey, you're agreeing to pay us this from your brokerage side because we're representing a buyer or tenant, And with receipt of this letter, you're agreeing to it. Even if they don't sign it, we're assuming. And believe me, if you write the wrong amount, you're gonna find out real fast. In 5 minutes, hey, it's only this, it's not that. And then it gets confirmed in the offer or purchase agreement, sometimes in the lease. And guess what? 75% of our deals are leases. We don't get paid at escrow. So then we have to write an invoice and start calling every day and go, hey, where's my check, where's my check? So commercial real estate is really heavily involved in collecting the fee, more so I think than residential, because we're used to having that offer in MLS and all that stuff. So yeah, you gotta ask for it, and if you don't ask for it, you may not get it.
Hey, would you be able to, since you've already experienced this, we can keep the mic. It's what do you do when you have an offer put together but they just don't want to pay compensation?
Well, like I said, you're supposed to figure that out first. Now, they may, obviously, the listing agent or that side is getting paid something. So, I mean, it's negotiated in your offer. I mean, most purchase agreements, not all lease agreements will allude to a schedule that you're getting paid, and you have to demand it. But, you know, if you wait until the agreement's finished or done, it's a bit too late. You may have some gracious sellers that might say, hey, you know, yeah, we're offering this.
So you're doing it with your offer, not prior?
Yeah, it's got to be done all in advance because they got to figure out what they're going to net. That's a big part of it. However, if there's a listing agreement placed with the listing house and you're representing the buyer or tenant, they're already, in a way, assuming they're going to have to, you know, attract something on the outside. There are some investment firms that traditionally don't cooperate. Everyone knows who they are, and you assume for it, so you then write it into your buyer side. But again, I've rarely used, like Herman, I've rarely used a buyer or tenant rep agreement, simply because I worked with referrals, and it's not as common. Tenant office rep, office tenant rep deals where there's a lot of work done on smaller deals, they tend to require, you know, a tenant to sign one. And it could be exclusive, it could be non-exclusive, it could be one property all day, like that was mentioning. But at least get something, you know, in writing.
A little bit, I'm sorry, Herman. To answer your question, I'm a landlord rep for one property, and the landlord specifically told me I'm only paying X%. Whatever you do with it, what you do with it. And then there was a tenant rep that came up, we're doing the deal, and I was automatically going to agree to give him half. But he came, he asked me, he goes, hey, if I get you this deal, will you pay me? I said, hey, I will pay you X amount. This is because he asked for it. But if he didn't ask for it, I may not have gave it to him either. But to be fair, I want to give it to everybody, just okay, we can get the deal closed. But that goes back, if they're not offering, just go back and ask for it.
Let's talk about unintended consequences, y'all. Okay. Auntie Herman been in the business a long time. Okay. In those situations, as a buyer, if you know you're going to be having to front money up and you're getting worried the whole time thing, there's going to be a rise of double ending. Why even deal with a buyer's agent if I'm going to have to be paying, you know, I'm just going, maybe as a buyer, I'm just not going to deal with a negotiation tactic or protocol with a buyer's agent and then renegotiate again possibly during an escrow, you know, presentation. Just why don't you just go directly to the listing agent? So then where's the rise in that? That's why when this whole thing settled and started, you know, Redfin, Glenn posted everything saying, because you know, Redfin's all a buyer, lots of buyer leads coming into their web. You know, when that happened, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, let's do double ending. Yes, because they kind of like shied away from that. But they understood that that buyer vertical is going to be almost like completely changed. And so the only way you kind of like will have any margin, double ending. But then the problem is in some jurisdictions, double ending is allowed. Number two, referrals. So what do you normally get for referrals? 25, you know. So if you're giving referrals and we're expecting that, and this particular, are we going to ask them to, like, what if they negotiate a really low amount? I mean, it's just going to be a very, very complicated situation, I think, with referrals. And then also, are referrals supposed to be, where's the lawyer? Where'd that darn lawyer go? Yeah. So am I going to be seeing one of these days when the client says, "Oh, you didn't tell me that you were getting paid on the back side, and you forced me, you highly steered me to this one particular offer because you were getting paid." That's a lawsuit. Class action lawsuit, yes. There's so many things
All right. We only have time for one more question because right after this, Jamie is going to be role-playing for us as a buyer-seller, and you don't want to miss that. This is her acting debut. But I did want to make one comment, and that is, commercial is very different from residential, and I've never had a problem a buyer paying me a commission, and the reason is typically they give me very specific parameters. I'm looking at 100 deals. I bring in the 5 deals that actually make sense for them, and they're picking one that works for them. So I'm doing a lot of upfront work from them. They know that. They're sophisticated buyers. They know that. They don't have the time to do it themselves, so they're relying on the agent to do it for them. So what may happen is residential agents might have to start acting more like commercial agents and providing more value. So, sorry.
It's a slippery slope. Yeah, she's
slope.
back. You know why? You know why? We're so spoiled in the house here. Because in America, we have the luxury even saying we have buyer's agent commission. Go abroad. Doesn't exist.
Okay, on to the second question. So we can see Jamie in action. All right.
Yeah, Herman.
But 1 minute. I'm going to be enforcing it. I'm going to give you the C sign to close up if you're going to. What do you expect to be the biggest impact to your business? And what are you doing to prepare for that? I'm going to have Charles go first this time.
At least on our side, it's probably going to be interest rates. It's not so much the comp world that you guys are experiencing, but I think you guys will come through it okay. It's just blip in how it gets paid and stuff, and the perception of everyone saying, "Oh, we work for you for free as a buyer, and I get paid on the other end," and that's not going to be happening anymore. But I think you guys will be fine. It's just going to be a little bump in the road. You guys are needed. I don't think AI can replace you guys. So. Other than interest rates going down a little bit lower, that's what I'm hoping for.
If we're just talking about the topic today, so the biggest impact and the changes, I think all of us, we just continue to educate ourselves, learn more so we can spread it to our team or our agents if you are the broker for a brokerage. To share your knowledge, everything you learn, and keep everybody educated, informed, and stay relevant to the topic, and I think we're all going to be okay.
So this has been a huge boost to my business. I'm one of the biggest, mail marketers in the country. So right when this happened, I saw opportunity. Mail, through the mail. So when this came up, I knew there was going to be a lot of uncertainty, and when there's uncertainty, there's opportunity. So I wanted to market to this and get in front of more sellers. And unfortunately, where I was at, they wouldn't allow me to market in that way, so I had to switch and go to a brokerage. And since I switched, I was able to, in the last 2 months, sign 22 listings based on this. Just getting in front of more clients. I know I provide exceptional service when I do take on a listing, so I feel I'm the best for the job. So to get me in front, to be able to be creative when I do get the listing and get the deal closed and get net the most for my sellers is most important to me. So it's been a huge boost for my business, and I think going forward it's going to continue to be a huge boost.
Who else wants to skip the CR of the NAR lawsuit and hear more of these listings? Yeah, it's just like anything, there's going to be a change coming, and what do we do with change? And it's scary, and then all of a sudden it becomes the new norm. So I wouldn't overthink anything. There's going to be so much that we're going to be figuring out in the next 2, 3, 4, 6 months, even years. So I wouldn't overthink it. Let's just see what happens, and we'll adapt from there. Other thing, when you're getting random calls from, hey, can you show me the house? Oh, absolutely, I don't mind showing you the house. Let me send you over this agreement. You're just gonna have to sign. If I show you the house, I'm entitled to commission. So I think that may reduce some of those individual showings that you have to do. Yeah. And then the other thing is when we go out, how many people are seeing like 1% commission, 2% commission and stuff? Why don't we just go in and make an offer and say, hey, commission's 3%, 3.5%, whatever you want to do. So you actually may make more money on this. We just get a little bit more aggressive. Even when you're meeting with a buyer broker, go over an agreement and say, hey, my commission is X amount.
You can always say my commission's 3%. You can also do Nope. Okay. There's a little bit of gray area, so.
I'm learning so
Great
much.
idea.
My
Great
goodness.
idea.
I'll change my answer. What was the question again? The biggest impact in my business? I'm just trying to pay my light bill. I don't know. I'm just gonna roll the punches. I tried to keep up with all the forms, the CBC, this and that. Now the DOJ, like, putting a call through that. I'm like, you know what? I'll figure things out August 16th.
Well, the settlement said that we cannot disclose the commissions in the MLS, but it didn't say that we cannot negotiate it. So there are going to be a lot more negotiations later on, but we have to negotiate what's more important for the buyer and sellers, and be creative is the most thing, and find different ways. As for me, I try to find all the different ways to get compensated. So because you have to show the value, and you have to show them everything has to speak straight up, and all the commissions, agreement, and everything gonna be in writing. So to me, I'm not really nervous much about the settlements, because at the beginning, the commission is always negotiable. So we're just finding the different ways to get compensated.
We all need to get paid.
I just feel sorry for the younger agents, because you have to present your value. If you just got your license, how you could, I would feel really insecure if I was a new agent, justifying this. So, but anyways, well, live and learn.
All right, I want to thank the panel so much.
Brutal.
I don't want to so thank you very much to the panel. Thank you. Napa Solano.
7 of them, actually 10 of them are going to be really important for our business for right now. I'm going to go through 7 of them as quickly as possible. I know this has been a long day, and these are complicated. This is the new residential listing agreement. And so what we are talking about here is the change. It's not in the grid format, as you can see. All right, so we're talking now. Part of the lawsuit terms, right? And everything that has gone on in terms of, we've already gone through the NAR settlement agreement. For those of you that are here in our area and various MLS, and in the Bay Area in general, we all go live on the 12th. August 12th is when we go live with all of this. And agents, our MLS, Barris, has already adopted this in their rules. They did this in the last meeting. Agents working with buyers need to have an agreement given to the buyer before an in-person or virtual tour. Broker agreements must clearly disclose the amount of compensation. You can see there, C. Then agents working with buyers cannot receive any more than is specified in this agreement, in a buyer broker agreement, and we're going live. So right now, what we're talking about is compensation. What you will see here is you will see seller compensation in C1, right? That's the percentage. You will see down in C2, additional compensation to seller for unrepresented buyer. This is not a dual agency. One of the things I want to point out about this is dual agency is no longer part of the listing agreement. There are no longer 2 parts of compensation. There is compensation for an unrepresented buyer, and I've heard a lot of concern about, oh, well, I'll just use the listing agent. Well, guess what? If they're going to use the listing agent, they're going to have to be an unrepresented buyer if they want to use the listing agent. So, and you want representation. And if you've already signed with that, if that buyer's already signed with another agent, then they're interfering with agency. That becomes a standards of practicing code of ethics issue. All right? So that's one of the things that you need to talk to your buyers about. All right? All right, so moving on. Most of this stuff is the same, as you will see. It has been the same.
The broker compensation advisory, which I will get to, you will see is auto check here, right? So we will talk about the broker compensation advisory in a little bit. And we're going on down here. Compensation to seller, compensation obligations to other brokers. Talk to your sellers. Make sure they have not signed something with somebody else, right? Be really sure, because we've all gone through this. Anyone that's been in the business for a while has gone through this, where the seller neglects to talk about the fact that they signed with somebody else. They're going to end up owing 2 commissions. Yeah. You just need to ask them. The seller's on the hook, not you, right?
No, I'm sorry, so going back to the last slide.
The
Buyer representation. So say I'm a listing agent. They come to me and they say, I want you to represent me. How can we verify that they have not signed these?
So that actually we will get to in the buyer representation agreement in a little bit.
Can I ask a question real quick for you?
Sure.
You said that the buyer's agent, if they want to bypass the buyer's agent, go directly to the listing agent, legally speaking, they're considered an unrepresented buyer.
Well, not legally speaking. They are considered an unrepresented buyer in this, because as a listing agent, if you want to represent a buyer, you have to have a buyer-broker agreement with them. And so they're going to have to sign a buyer-broker agreement, so the seller's not going to be getting any reduced commission or anything along that side. So that's why.
So there's no additional compensation for the listing agent representing an unrepresented buyer in a conversation where they come directly to the listing
Well,
agent?
yeah. So if a buyer comes to the agent and says, I want you to represent me, it'll be cheaper for the seller. No, it's not going to be cheaper for the seller. The seller is still going to end up paying it for an unrepresented buyer or for a buyer that is represented by somebody else. All right? All right. So the maximum listing period, this just will go into effect 2 years, right? Right. So maximum listing period is 2 years. This has nothing to do with the 30 days or the 90 days for buyer-broker agreements. That was something that will go into law in January of next year. All right. And let's see, agency relationship. Dual agency is still allowed, right? So you can still have dual agency. The seller still may represent both the buyer and seller here in California. That has not changed. CAR has a working group looking at dual agency and trying to figure out what to do about single agent dual agency, right? Because that has always been problematic on some levels. So they are looking into that, but right now it is still allowed. But remember, as a single agent or dual agent, you have to have a buyer representation agreement. All right, so unrepresented buyer. If a buyer is interested in viewing a seller's property and is not ready represented in real estate broker, such as buyer refuses to be represented by the broker, seller authorizes the broker to obtain a signed document from the buyer refusing representation by the broker. Broker shall provide such buyers at the earliest practical time a disclosure of non-agency form DNA. So the seller will actually, if a buyer says, I don't want to be represented, you need to sign a buyer non-agency agreement. And anytime they are asked you for something, you have to be sure that you provide them with a buyer non-agency. So they ask you for things, you cannot advise them because you will slip into dual agency. The second that you slip into dual agency with them, right, you are placing yourself in legal liability, right? So my suggestion, quite honestly, would be don't do unrepresented buyers. Say, you know what, you need to go find a buyer's agent. And that too, I could recommend a buyer's agent, and then you get a referral fee. All right. So that really is it for the new listing agreement. All right. So one of the things that you may have. Come on. There we go. All right. So one of the things that you may have noticed in the new residential listing agreement is all the stuff on the MLS is gone, right? So there was all this information in the MLS about the MLS and what participants are, what the MLS is. So that's all been moved over to an addendum that auto-attaches to the listing agreement. And it talks about clear cooperation. Barris, for those Barris members, we are not part of clear cooperation. We are broker-owned. We are not realtor-owned. But, and that being said, we're not, because we're not realtor-owned, wait a minute, the lawsuit doesn't affect us. Well, guess what? We got sued, even being non-realtor-owned. So we have actually joined the settlement agreement.
Oh, you have.
So Barris is part of the settlement agreement. We've already made the rule changes. All right, so here, one of the things that you want to look at here in public marketing, seller instructs the broker. Put a date in there. When you're filling this in, if you are part of clear cooperation, you are delaying this, put a date in here, right? Even if you're not, if you're delaying for our MLS, put a date in here that you're delaying it, because most people will take a listing and there's a prep period, right? And so this is like the SELM, put a date in here.
Can you go on a little bit?
Right. No.
So will we not need the SELM?
So it depends upon your MLS. Since we've got so many people here. All right, seller concessions. Seller concessions explain. When people talk about concessions, concessions are not commission, right? So be real clear on that. Concessions are not commission. Concessions are, here, concessions may include, but are not limited to, costs of escrow or title, lender fees, repairs, inspections, and buyer-broker compensation. So concessions can be if the seller is willing to pay the buyer's broker, but the buyer is the one that has to ask for that. Because you are not parties to the contract. You should not be putting an addendum on the purchase agreement.
Agents are talking about doing that.
No, because you are not a party to the contract. You don't want to be a party to the contract. All right, so moving on. Seller authorization. Seller does not authorize the broker to put into the MLS, is willing to offer asking for concessions, or seller authorizes. So this is actually also part of the settlement agreement, and it is part of what Barris has done and all the other MLSs in the Bay Area have done. And I'm sure throughout the country they are doing something along this line. Some are not having fields for concessions. Barris will have a field for concessions. The East Bay will have a field for concessions. And San Francisco will have a field for concessions, yes, no. In Barris, it's going to say buyer credits, buyer no credits, right? So the thing that you need to recognize here is that the default is seller does not authorize the broker to put in that they're willing to offer concessions. It doesn't mean the buyer can't ask, right? It doesn't mean that it's not negotiable. It just means that the default is here. You can change the default if you have that conversation, and you should be having that conversation with your sellers. When you are talking to your sellers about this, you can say, yes, we can do this two ways. If your company has got a separate form, because one of the things that CAR did was they removed the buyer side commission from everything. They got rid of the cooperating broker compensation agreement. Gone. CAR is looking to what the DOJ didn't ask them to do this, right? But what they are looking at is the fundamental change that will likely take place, because in conversations with the DOJ, what they are looking at is the DOJ does not want the seller's broker paying the other broker. Bottom line, that is what they're heading toward. They have not said it yet, but that's what they're heading toward. So we need to get used to this new paradigm of either asking the seller to pay the buyer's broker commission, or having it folded into the loan, or things along that line. All right, so moving on.
Before you move on, can I ask you if the seller authorizes the broker, does that require them to offer?
No, it is not a legal obligation. It just says that I am willing to consider. Yeah. All right, so moving on. So number 3. All right, for all of you folks that have current listing agreements, can I see people who've got current listing agreements? All right, yay! Congratulations to you. So you are going to need to modify those agreements, and you're going to need to modify those agreements by the 12th, because guess what? thing that says what buyer's side commission is going away, right? So one of this form DM-L, is the one that will modify the commission, right? What I want you to notice down here in number 2, modification of listing agreement. This is where the buyer side commission is being pulled out. And where I have it underlined here, seller and broker agree that the total compensation shall, parentheses, shall not be reduced by the amount authorized to be offered in the MLS. So you need to talk to your brokers and figure out which one you're going to do. I know on the meeting with my brokers the other day, we are actually not checking the box. We're reducing it, and then we are having the sellers sign a separate form, which is the separate form that they will need to sign offering the buyer's broker commission, right? So that's something that you'll need to talk to your brokerage and figure out exactly what they're going to do when you modify the commission. But this is the form to modify your listing agreement, form DM-L. All right. All right, moving on. The broker compensation advisory. So this is your explanation, right? This talks about commission. This is attached to the listing agreement. This is attached to the buyer broker agreement. This talks about what the listing agent does. And again, listing agreement compensation is fully negotiable, right? Optional and additional compensation for unrepresented buyers, which we just talked about a little bit. Broker may represent both buyer and seller, dual agency. It talks about it, right? This really is your guide to talking to your sellers and to your buyers about who gets paid and how we get paid, right? So, broker with buyers, requirement for written agreements. This, when you talk to both your buyers and brokers, it talks about the need for the written agreement. All right, so there, and pursuant to legislation expected to become law January 1st, 2025, all licensees showing a buyer any type of property will be required to have a written agreement with that buyer prior to showing, right? That's going to become law. Right now it's being done because of the settlement. But next year, January 1st, it's law.
Who's policing that? I mean,
So the policing right now is the MLS. And and the MLS is the one that's responsible, and you've got the little correction key or report violation key. If somebody comes through or they present an offer and they don't have a buyer broker agreement, it's on the MLSs. So the same mechanism for any MLS that they do for their violations is going to be the same mechanism that they're going to use for this. And it's going to be driven by us. It's going to be driven by us as agents reporting those people that are doing things they shouldn't be doing.
so when you receive an offer as a listing agent, the buyer's agent has to give you the buyer broker?
But they're going to have to give you the agency. They're going to have to give you an agency
An
agreement.
agency agreement, okay,
Right.
okay, gotcha, okay.
What if when you have an open house?
So we will get to open houses. So that's in a second. So we will talk about that. All right, so seller pays the compensation. Changing practice related to sellers' offers of compensation. This talks about the history of it. We've been through the history of this a bunch already today. Historically in California, many sellers, brokers, and the multiple listing service made a unilateral offer of compensation. Gone. But this, in terms of just being quickly to be able to explain to either a buyer or a seller, is part of this buyer compensation agreement package right there. So, advisory. There we go. All right, so moving on. We're going to talk about open houses. All right, so you have the open house non-agency disclosure and sign-in. This is not a legally required form. It is not a mandatory form. It is a cover your ass form. And so this is a good form. What happens if a buyer refuses to sign it? Guess what? Nothing. Nothing. Don't force them to sign it. But limit your conversation with them. So what happens is if somebody comes in and they say, you know what, I'm already represented, I don't need somebody, I don't want to sign the form, that's fine. Let them go. If they start asking questions, well, will the seller live the washer and dryer? You know what? You can say to them, you know what, I'm limited in what I can talk to you about because I don't want to accidentally create an agency relationship. So you need to be able to talk to them with, you know. So agent does not represent visitors. Communication with agent at the open house is for the benefit of the seller, right? Communication with the agent is not confidential, right? So that changes when you actually have an agency agreement and you have a fiduciary responsibility, right? All right. If visitor writes on the property through the agent will disclose if the agent and the agent's broker represents exclusively or both sides. Let's see, if the visitor wants to be represented by the agent holding the open house, you have instructions. Visitors should sign a representation agreement with the agent holding the open house, such as a property showing and representation agreement, CAL Form PSRA, or buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. The buyer representation and broker compensation agreement is a long form, right? The PSRA is a short form. The buyer representation and broker compensation agreement is for 90 days. The property, this is such a horrible name, property showing and representation agreement is a maximum of 30 days. And we will go to those next. All right. All right. So this is the property showing and representation agreement for use with prospective buyers up to 3 open houses or 3 other properties. So you have space for 3 properties here. Can be 1, can be 3, right? It is limited, as you can see, not to exceed 30 days. And it can be shorter. You know, you have one of those people that are real tender, I don't know, I don't want to commit, oh God, you know, I'm not that kind of stuff. You know what? How about you give me a week? And I will, you know, we can go, you know, look at these 3 houses and then you can sit on it for a week. And, you know, we can talk about them and I can make disclosures for you. And if you want to move forward, then we will sign the buyer broker representation agreement. And I'll send you a copy of that so you have a chance to review it. So nosy neighbors, same sort of, nosy neighbors are not prospective buyers. Nosy neighbors are nosy neighbors. Nosy neighbors are prospective sellers. So you just let them in. Just let them in. If they say they're a neighbor, there's not really going to be an agency. They're not truly looking to buy. It's the same, in the same way that when you know those large families that come in, right? I have a Harmignon, right, that comes with me sometimes, and it's like lots and lots of people. It's like the abuelita and everybody else, right? And it's like, okay, you know what? There's only really 2 buyers there. It's the husband and wife. They're just dragging the family along to look at it. You only need one of the husband, either the husband or the wife to sign it. You know, so you don't have to have everybody sign it, just one. Yeah. So as a listing agent, it depends upon the situation. Before you can show any other property, you need to have buyer representation agreement, and the agency agreement is bundled with that. And so you're going to actually go through the agency agreement in the same way that the agency agreement is bundled with the listing agreement. As a buyer agent, you still have to have an agency agreement. Yes. Yeah.
Did you say that?
I was going to ask about like Zillow or online sources. They were saying that they have their own.
Their own does not actually comply with the settlement agreement from what some of the attorneys I've talked to have said. So
you're better off using this agreement, even though there was some kerfuffle over it from the Consumer Federation of America. They were looking at early versions of this, and they also do not understand what California legal requirements are, our statutory requirements in our business and professional code of what we actually have to do here. And so it's like, yeah, no, it's not complicated. That's actually statutory language that's required. All right, so this will go through in terms of prospective buyers attending an open house. You're not, it's essentially notice you're not required to sign a representation agreement. So people coming through the open house, are not, you can't scam them into signing it. Bottom line. All right, so, all right, so, what do I have from? 7.1. This is the biggie. Buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. So, again, a maximum not to exceed 3 months. Type of representation. The default in this is non-exclusive. You can make this an exclusive agreement, but the default is non-exclusive, right? If you check exclusive, they're going to have to initial another box on another page in this that we'll get to. All right, so pay attention to that. Location. You want this to be enforceable. If you end up in a dispute or litigation and you don't have a county or city in here, guess what? You lose, right? So if you, and let's say you're an agent that works here, like in Napa, but you also work down in Los Angeles, then check LA County and Napa County. Real easy. So do that. The world, no, you can't. Ultimately, in the old buyer broker agreement, if it was too broad, it would be thrown out as well. So, all right. Yes. So they can, a buyer can have non-exclusive agreements with other agents as long as they have not signed an exclusive agreement with an agent, right? If they have non-exclusive agreements with other agents, there are certain properties that the broker is owed compensation for that actually, we'll get to that in a second. All right, so moving on, again, part of the settlement agreement in the dark in E, broker compensation, note of the amount or rate of real estate commission is not fixed by law. They're set by each broker individually and may be negotiable between buyer and seller, or buyer and broker. See attached broker compensation advisory. All right, so the amount of compensation. So this is where you put the amount that you are worth, right? You guys get to determine what you're worth. Your worth is no longer determined by what the listing agent feels your worth is. This is your worth. You need to determine it, right? Whatever that percentage is, I'm not going to bring up the percentage because, as you saw me, I don't want to get us in trouble. That's what got us in trouble at the beginning, right? All right. So next, other financial considerations. This is really important. Buyer does not have sufficient funds to pay broker. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have enough funds. Well, there are ways of working around that, but the bottom line is, CAR doesn't want you working for free. So there is an ability in this contract to actually deal with that, and we'll get down to that in a second. All right, so for compensation to broker, right? Again, the commission is not fixed by law, right? So when we talk about broker-involved properties and you have a non-exclusive agreement, right? Whenever this is agreement is used, buyer who physically entered the property and was shown the property by broker. Broker showed the property to buyer virtually. Broker submitted to the seller a signed written offer from the buyer to acquire the property. Broker performed a market analysis related to the property. So when you start doing these things, right, that kind of gives you a claim, right, as to commission, right? And that's where it's a broker, if it's a broker involved property, if you have an exclusive agreement, if they go and buy the property with somebody else, they're on the hook for that. Not the seller, but the buyer is on the hook for that. In a non-exclusive agreement, you may end up in an arbitration over it, right? You'd end up going to the broker. So that's one of the considerations that you need to make as to whether you do a non-exclusive or an exclusive agreement. But quite honestly, and I've been doing this for 25 years, I think I've only had a buyer do me dirty twice on this, where they went and used their cousin to buy it, you know. So that doesn't happen that often. And I suspect because this is actually raising the level of competency, right? That we're going to see a lot less of this, and buyers are going to be better vetted. All right, so all right, time compensation. Broker authorization and obligations. So this essentially are your duties. You want to know what your value is? This is your value, right? Locating and presenting selected properties, assisting the buyer in negotiating, ordering reports, investigations, scheduling and attending meetings, upon request, providing buyers with professionals, right? Upon request, assisting buyer with financing. So that's actually going to be really important. But guess what? The buyer has obligations too, right? The buyer is supposed to act in good faith, right? Financial and personal information. They should be giving you a pre-approval letter. This is also where, if the buyer cannot, and checks in the thing, in the box that goes, we'll go back up here. When they check up here, buyer does not have sufficient funds to pay the buyer broker. We go down here, if they have checked that box, what the buyer agrees to include a term in the offer requesting the seller to compensate the buyer's broker and, let's see, I lost my place. For the transaction, this agreement is contingent upon the seller or others both agreeing to pay the buyer's broker the full amount that the buyer is contractually obligated to pay the broker, right? So that means it's subject to the seller or somebody else agreeing to pay your commission, right? So if the buyer checks that box, that's what comes into play. Now, mind you, this is the part that we're getting groans about, and this was just put in. This was not in the red line version. This was just released. This contingency is in favor of the broker, and the broker may elect to cancel this agreement related to the representation of on that specific property if the seller does not agree to pay the full amount that is contractually obligated to pay the broker. The broker shall inform the buyer, the seller, and the listing agent that the buyer is proceeding without representation, and they shall have to complete a new agency confirmation removing the broker as representing the buyer. So bottom line, what it does is it just prevents you from working for free, right? It gives you the out if you need to act. All right, so that's it. So questions? Yes? No. That if I said that was a misspeak. No, you only need to, or the buyer, have an agency agreement, and that is bundled with it. Prior to showing a property, you don't need to provide the listing agent with anything. They can ask you for a copy of your buyer broker agreement, right, before you show the property. But I find that kind of doubtful that any agent is going to want to keep track of all that paperwork and ask you for that. So yes.
At open houses, can the realtors have an option just to have the buyer representative agreement so that they can show other properties as well, or do you recommend doing that one?
So repeat your question. I'm not quite hearing it. So I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear it.
If you're at an open house, is there logic just to have the buyer's broker agreement instead of the open house agreement?
Well, that's actually where you should probably have the short form agreement with you at an open house as a listing agent, right? And that's as the listing agent, right? As the listing agent, you've got the non-agency agreement. If the buyer wants to be represented, that's actually in the open house agreement saying that you'll sign either the buyer representation agreement or the PSRA, yeah. That's going to be the hardest one for me.
And that applies as well if you're not listing.
If you're just posting for another agent, my brokerage does not allow agents not of our agency to hold open houses, but I know that that's not a practice that is throughout the industry. Yeah, so let's bring that. Yes, so the PSRA. There we go. So yes, this is the one. Yeah, this is the one that is limited to 30 days. And so you should probably have a handful of these when you go at your open house, just in case you want to do dual representation. All right? All right, any other questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
When you go back to the other form.
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about the buyer not having money.
Yes.
So contractually, he's not paying it. But at the bottom, in that
So.
circle, you say contractually obligated to.
Right. So what happens is the buyer is still going to say that they're going to, whatever commission that you agreed to in the buyer broker agreement, they are obligating themselves to. But in that, when they check that box, they're saying they don't really have the money to do it. They're going to need some other mechanism. So
There is a percentage up there?
right. So what happens is in the buyer representation agreement.
I didn't see a percentage.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. So there we are.
So that's the amount that they don't have.
Right. So they'll put in the amount in what is it? Yeah. No. It's what happens is the paragraph numbers have all switched on me. So yeah, paragraph 2. Paragraph 2E1.
So David, can you check both boxes? Buyer does not have the funds and buyer intends to purchase.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, like if it's a VA.
Right. And so they're allowing the stuff to be wrapped in.
Right.
So which is great. All right. So I think that's really it. And I was trying to think of one other thing. The forms that I didn't bring up are the buyer identification of preferences and priorities. And so there's certain forms in terms of financial stuff that are going to be extra forms in there. You can look at those when you go through it that either talk about what kind of property, 2 bedrooms, 3 baths, must have this and that, so there is a form for that. There's also a form in terms of the financial information that they can give you. But quite honestly, I think your best bet is just to get a pre-approval letter and talk to the lender.
Oh, yeah.
All right? Thanks. All right. So, yeah. Oh, got a couple more questions. So.
Let's say you submit the offer for them, the seller, you negotiate the entire RPA for them, you go through fee counters, and the seller says, I'm not paying the agent, then you just have to bow out and they can.
So what happens is you will put the contract in, right? And yeah, so you don't have to, because the buyer's not going to get paid. The buyer will so that's going to be part of the problem, I think, ultimately. It's like, yeah.
If I do all of this stuff for you when we get to this point, I would like to be compensated for the contract that I negotiated for you, the contract.
Right, but that contract goes away because so the whole thing gets canceled. It won't be accepted because part of the acceptance, whenever you put a contract in, right, is going to be them agreeing to what the buyer is asking for, right? Either through a counteroffer or just accepting the offer as written, right? Because you're gonna fill in 3G3, right, in the residential purchase agreement if you're in California, right? And it's gonna be asking for that. And then if the seller doesn't agree to that, right, then there is no agreement.
So if they foresee this as a problem, is this something that's being looked at as like you need to find an alternative, or?
There isn't, it was the problem, this is ultimately, there isn't an alternative, but we're not really saying that that is ultimately gonna be a problem because most sellers are already offering this. And so that's either gonna, it's likely gonna shift to sellers offering compensation to the buyer's broker because the commission is going away that would have been paid through broker to broker. So does that make sense? So, yes, you had a question.
I have a question. So we all know how much liability it is for an agent to represent multiple buyers. And going back to your last form, imagine you're the listing agent in the open house. You're the only agent in the open house.
Right.
And you are signing that last form with multiple people who come in. You're representing them as buyers.
Well, no, see, that really is only if they ask you to be, that they want to be represented as a buyer. And then that really becomes a problem if you are represented, then you should be having them sign the PRDS, the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller, you know, as well as an agency agreement, because again, remember the agent is not you, the agent is actually the company. So that's always, it's always possible that there's going to be, you know, not only single agent, dual agency, but there's also agency within a company. So whatever your company is, you could have 6 offers from 6 other agents. What's the difference there?
But if you're the agent in that open
House,
house,
yeah.
a very popular open house, and multiple buyers come to you and say, hey, I want you to represent, or at least in that
Right,
conversation.
it would probably be allowable if it is disclosed, but you have to disclose it to all of them. And quite honestly, most buyers are not going to be, you're going to have to disclose that, by the way, I'm also representing this buyer as well. Most buyers are not going to want to be represented by a single agent representing multiple buyers on a single property.
Right, so once you disclose that, then you have to shut your mouth.
Right, you have your fiduciary responsibility.
In the open house, it's like, no, I just signed with that buyer, if you can not work with me, I'm not disclosing any information to you.
Yeah, but you still have an obligation to the seller as a listing agent to disclose certain things, right? And to have, go through your fiduciary responsibilities. All right, David, you got last one right here. All right, so yes.
So the buyer has representation of the buyer agent, and the buyer thinks she can drop the buyer agent, go with the listing agent, hoping the listing agent can get compensation. The seller already said, I'm not paying. So how does that play out?
I'm not following the thread.
Let's
So,
say I have a buyer.
yes, you've got a buyer.
They really love the home, but no buyer compensation. So
But-
they drop me, they go to the listing agent, hoping the listing agent can convince the seller to pay buyer compensation. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So again, they're going to have to. If they drop you, right? And if they drop you, you have a representation agreement with them. That representation agreement obligates them to you for a specific amount of time. Now, they can cancel, you can mutually cancel that agreement, right? And there is a cancellation form for the agreement. Yes, you already showed them the house, right? Yeah. It has to be mutual. It's not unilateral. There is also, exactly, there's also a safe harbor period, just like in the, so there is a
That's a breezy way to go.
There is a safe harbor period. So that is actually, so there you can see, 3E, continued right to payment for broker-involved properties. Continuation period shall be X number of days. Put the number of days in there. You know, if you're really nervous about your buyer, put 120 days in there, right? If they're going to want to dump you and go after that property, it's going to have to be on the market for at least 120 days. So yes. No, because buyers are still in it. Buyers still are going to have an agreement with their compensation, right? And sellers are either going to that buyer will still have to have an agreement for compensation with seller agents, or they're going to have to be non-represented. And if it's a non-represented person, they're idiots if they're non-represented. I'm sorry. So that has not really come up in terms of anything, but it's the same thing in terms of a listing agreement, where you have 5 days before the expiration of the listing agreement, you have to get the names of those buyers who come to a property to the seller and say, these people are all dependents. You cannot go into contract with them. That's what the safe harbor period is. And quite honestly, the funny case is that they're adults. They're signing a legal agreement, right? So they need to pay attention to those things. So, yes, with a mutual cancellation, you're starting off at base 0, right? So don't do it.
All right, hey guys, this is great stuff. No, thanks, David.